Hello, welcome. I want to do a simple tutorial on data cleaning in data analytics for absolute beginners. So if you're new to data analytics or there are certain things you are still not clear about in data cleaning in data analytics, then this tool is for you. We'll try to make it as brief as possible, precise, but yet, you know, enlightening enough. All right. So as you can see on the data that we have here, it's a medical data set of students within a university. You have their student ID, their age, gender, and the different features for each student. We can see clearly from the data that one of the major errors we have in the data are blank cells. You can see the presence of blank cells, right? You have blank cells in your numerical columns and in your categorical columns. So we'll be looking at how to deal with numeric blank cells in this data, how to deal with categorical blank cells in this data. Another issue that we have with our data here is that our data is duplicated. It's quite a unique problem, and I loved these data sets from the first moment I saw it. I've always used it for most of my private classes. So if we look down from row 100,001, so I'm going to make the data available for you so you can download in the description. Right, so I'm just going to show us how this data is duplicated. Right, you can see row 1000 and 100,002. So let's see this information and let's compare it with what we have here. So you can see 18 female, 161.779 as height, weight. So you can see that the information is just the same. And then aside from that, what makes it also really dicey is that some information available in this first set is missing in the second set. For instance, you can find that there's no blood pressure in the second set for that row. Meanwhile, while this one has temperature, 98.6144, this doesn't have. So makes our data set a bit more dicey and something that's going to be good to practice data cleaning. So we're going to use the if function a lot. We're going to use the if function a lot because I am trying to make this as basic as possible. Right, it's possible to teach a lot of shortcuts and all that, but let's follow the route, not just using it. So we need to understand why we do some of these things. Okay, so let me create a duplicate copy of this sheet so we have original data and we don't want to lose that at all during the process. So we want from the 100,000 row, row of data points, which is here, right? So from this is going to begin the first set. If I highlight this, or even if I have just the first, I can press Ctrl Shift End to highlight everything to the end of the table. I can cut that off and then paste it at the beginning here. Okay, so I have that collected. Right, let's also copy our headers. Okay, so we're not keeping student ID because it's just a series of numbers. Let's have students. No, still haven't gotten that right. Let's copy this and let's do this. So this has to go off. Okay, so for the sake of separation, for us to be able to uniquely distinct each group from the other, let's just add a int 2. Okay, so we just have this from this. All right, we're good. Okay, so we want to start from the age column. I'll use it as an example to show us what we're going to do. The age column, you can see that there are certain values that are missing here, that are available here, missing here, but available here. So we are going to write an if function that's going to collect information from this side if it is missing on this side, and collect information from this side if it's missing on this side. So we'll have only the rows that have missing values from both sides as empty cells, or have zeros. Okay, so let me attempt to do that here. All right, so I'm going to use the if function, and I'm saying if the value in n2, which is our second set of age values, if the value there is empty, okay, give us what was in B2. So just in case, so we'll be clear, B2 was what is in age on the other side, first section. Otherwise, just return to us what is in N2, right? So if this is empty, it will take the value from the first section for age. If it is not empty, it's going to return back what was here. So if I do that, I have 18, and if I double click down, using the fill handle, it's going to fill for the rest of them. Now please take note that make sure if you want to use a fill handle to replicate your formula to the cells below, that there is no empty column between your new cell where you're using to input your formula and your target cells, right? If you do that, you may not be able to use the fill handle to replicate the formulas down. Okay, so here I have my age. So if n2 is empty, give me b2, otherwise give me n2. So I want to repeat this thing that I've done for age. I want to repeat it for the other columns. Okay, so that should be stopping at around smoking. So here I can conveniently do this as well. So it goes through, and everywhere there's a blank on one section and the value is available on the other section, it takes and it complements them. Right? On an event where both sides are empty, it gives us 0. Okay, so that's one thing we would have to deal with, but for now we've made progress. Okay, so what we're going to do is let's just get these headers back. Now these values are referenced, so they are tied to these guys. If anything happens to a formula, a cell here, we lose that value here as well. Okay, is there a good example I can use here? So temperature was missing on the other side, yeah, for this first row. If I lose temperature here, you see that this is also lost here. So I don't want that, because I'm satisfied with this table and this is the table I want to work with from now on. So I have to copy. So I have to copy and paste as values these columns that I did this formula for. Okay, so hold on. Okay, so these are them. I copy, Control C, and then Control Alternate V to paste as values. Now the moment I do that, notice that I no longer have the formulas in my formula bar, but I have their values indeed. Okay, so now I can gently delete this column as it's no longer necessary for me. Alright, fine. So let me add filters. So we'll see what we've done in our data so far. We do not have issues of blanks anymore in our data, but we have zeros. Okay, now the zeros represent where we had blanks on both sides of the data. Now we are now talking properly on how to deal with numerical data, missing data in numerical columns, right? numerical kinds of data. How do we deal with values that are missing? So one of the ways that we can deal with missing values in numerical columns is by replacing with a measure of central tendency, a value that can represent the whole data without skewing it either to the left or to the right. Okay, so that's how we can handle numerical columns like age, the temperature, heart rate, blood pressure, and so on and so forth. So that's what we're going to do. However, we are not going to do exactly that or completely that for height, weight, and BMI, because there is a relationship between the height, the weight, and the BMI. There is a mathematical calculation. I think is BMI is equals to weight over height squared, I guess. Weight over height squared is going to give us BMI. So in that instance, some places where BMI is still 0 because it was missing on both sections, we can still be able to have it or calculate it if both the height and the weight is available. So because there is a mathematical relationship between those three variables, wherever any two of them exist, we can always calculate the missing one, but more about that later. All right, so let's deal with the zeros by replacing the zeros in the numerical columns by replacing them with the average, which is a measure of central tendency. Okay, but we have to be careful, right? We have to be careful. Let's look at this, right? There are several ways I can do this. I can decide to give a name to this column, Control Shift down to highlight the column, and then I call it age. All right, so you come to your name box, type in age, and then I save. So if I do equal to average, which should calculate the average for us, and I say what is the average of age, it gives me 25.75311. However, the way mean works or average works is that it is the sum of values divided by the total count of values. And what we have in our data are ages and zeros, which represent missing values. So this average we calculated here includes zeros, which when you sum makes no difference, but when you count, it increases the number of values that are there. I believe I'm making some sense. So we would prefer to use the average if function to say some age, but we would prefer that you do not include values that are equal to 0. Okay, they do not include values that are equal to 0. So that's what we're going to do. So if we do this, you'll find out that we have an age range of about 26, an average age of 26, which is better off than this. All right, so let us also round this up to a whole number. So use the round function, round whatever our average age function gave us, average if function gave us, round it to a whole number. So we have 26. Are we good? Sure. All right. So we are going to write another if statement that will replace zeros in age with 16. So that's what we're going to do for age. We're going to calculate the average for temperature, heart rate, blood pressure, and cholesterol. And for each of them, we are going to replace them by replace the zeros with their average. Okay, if that makes sense. So quickly, I'm just going to show us how to do for the age, and then I'll pause the video, finish for the others, and then come back and we continue. So we want to do for the age column. So we are saying if the value that is in age, so we are considering n, column n now, if it is equal to 0, anywhere you find 0 in column n, please replace it with what we have here. Now, two options. You can either decide to write 26, or you can decide to reference that cell, which is Z3. But you must be careful if you're referencing it to make sure that you absolute reference it. Use absolute referencing by locking the column header, the column letter, and the row letter. So if you are dragging down your column, you are not changing the row and the column it's referencing. I would explain. So let me do it without referencing first. Okay, replace it with Z3, otherwise return back N2. All right, so this is 18. Okay, if I drag down, sorry, if I drag down for the formula to fill, now this was 18, right? And see, the formula is referencing Z3, if you can see, right? But look at what happens here. It is referencing Z4. It has gone down. Look also what happens here. It's referencing Z5, because as you are going down the row, the column, right, the cell you referenced here is also going to be changing as well. So this is why we absolute reference. Okay, now if I do that, I do not have that problem anymore. So you can see here is still locked on Z3, and you can see the next is still locked on Z3. So quickly I do that for age, and then let me quickly also do for BMI, for temperature, heart rate, blood pressure, and cholesterol. Okay, so we want to calculate the, okay, so I can do that quickly. Yeah, let me do that above here. Let's, since they're all by themselves, we want to say what is the average if of temperature, average if temperature as so remember it's from T2 to T 100,001, as long as it is not equal to 0. Yeah, and we also said calculate the round function, calculate it rounded out to 4 decimal places. Oh, let's just do 0 first, we'll come back. Okay, I know I said I was going to let you off, but we're here, so let's just go ahead. Right, so for we're doing for heart rate, temperature, we're doing for heart rate, you're doing for blood pressure, we're doing for cholesterol. Okay, so we've calculated their different averages if we exclude the zeros, and we want 4 decimal places for temperature. Okay, so these are the values we use to replace them. So let's say if T2 is equal to 0, please replace it with what is here. Okay, otherwise return back what is in T2. So take note what I'm about to do here now, right? I want to be able to move along the row, right? Along different columns, along multiple columns, but I don't want to leave the row. Okay, so I can lock just the row number. If I do that, I can draw this. So see that it changed. This was referring to this. This was, if I come here, this is referring to this, and so on and so forth. But if I attempt to drag this down, look at what happens in the formula here. It did not move from AE1, right? If I drag this down as well, it did not move from, this did not move from AD1 as well. So you can lock only the row. So what I did here was I locked the row. So no matter how I dragged down, it is not going to shift from that position. Okay, the cell I'm referencing there, which is our averages, will not shift from that position. Okay. All right, at this point we have calculated, replace the zeros with the average. So let us copy. Okay, no, we can't copy all of them together. Let's do for this temperature for first. Okay, we can, if you've highlighted like this, another way you can copy a range of cells is, see your move cursor, right click and drag to the location you want to keep them, which is here. Okay, which is here. So if I let go, it asks me, do you want to move here, copy here? We want to copy as values only here. So that's what we just did. So the moment we copied as, so I think we overshot, we entered into BMI. So let's just undo that quickly and right click to, okay, from temperature. I think this is what we should have done. Okay, so we have better value. So now we should not be having zeros in our temperature, should not be having zeros in our heart rate, cholesterol and all that. Now let's clear this, guys. Before we come to our height and our BMI, how about for our numerical columns like gender, blood group and all that? You don't want to replace with with average, because of course that may not be well represented and you may make your data or your sample bias. So what I would prefer to do is to specify for those missing values that they were unspecified or those data are not available. Remember, in data cleaning or in data analysis, you're not so much in a hurry to delete your data points. You're not so much in a hurry to delete your data point. You don't want to reduce the number, your sample size till it becomes less than what is needed to actually make the assumptions you would be making. Not assumptions, rather, the discoveries you'll be making. All right. So for our categorical column, let us replace them with unspecified. Okay. So I'm saying that if my gender column is O2, if what's in O2 to if what's in O2 rather is equal to 0, please replace with on, let me be consistent, unspecified, otherwise return what is in O2. So this is what we are going to be doing to all our categorical columns. So you can see where you had 0 here before, you now have unspecified. Okay, so let's do for blood type, that will be equal to, so I can simply just, I know that there are 4 of them. Okay, I can just simply do this, and this will be from R, this will be from R to R2, right? So I can do this, and then, well, for this one would be for diabetes, which is X, which is X2, X2. Hope we are learning something new. If this is all new to you, please do well to comment in the comment section whatever you're learning is new, that's new, or if you think there's an easier way that you would have done it, yeah, feel free to let us know what you would have done with this data. Okay, so if we do that, we can copy or let's drag to gender. Oh shucks. Let's do that again. Control shift down. Let's drag to gender. Copy here as values only. Let's also do for blood pressure and blood type. Drag, and please take note of how that, of why you need to, sorry, because I spin around a bit. You need to be very accurate with this method, otherwise you move something to where you're not supposed to move to. So the way I moved this was not so good, and that's why it's giving this challenge. Okay, so copy here as values only, and next we have these two. Control Shift down and copy, come to where they are, right click and paste the values, so it replaces both of them. Now we can make do with these guys. Okay, all right, if you've made it here so far, kudos to you, you're doing a good job. We want to proceed to deal with our height, weight and BMI. So we are almost done. You can see we no longer have the, okay, see we are having blanks in our age column. Thought we had, I guess we didn't copy that properly. Let's see. Probably have made a mistake here. I copied. Okay, let's confirm that that's the, okay, height will have that but not temperature and all that. Okay, so I probably did not copy that properly. Let's do that quickly. Want to say if age, that's n2, is equal to 0, then please replace it with the value of average if of age where it is not equal to 0. This is the value you should replace it with, but we want you to replace it with the rounded value up to no decimal point, right? And then otherwise return back n2. So let's confirm. Yep, so we don't have zeros anymore. We don't have zeros anymore, so let's say Control Shift down, and then let us copy here as values only. Okay, so we're good. All right, now the formula for BMI is that BMI is equal to height, weight divided by height squared. Okay, so let's see, let's merge and center. Let's just so we can remember, BMI is equal to weight, how to spell weight, weight, well, it's just there, over height squared. That's the formula for BMI. So that's the formula we ought to use to get these values that are missing. Okay, so let's just copy those three columns to this side. Okay, or should we? What to say one small time? Okay, so let's just go. So I want to say that, okay, let me copy them just so I don't make any form of mistake. That would be embarrassing. Let me copy them here. That I did that with the headers and BMI as well. Okay, all right, so we are saying equal to if BMI, which is from AC2 to, if AC2 is equal to 0, rather, we should replace the 0 with weight divided by height squared. So this is weight divided by height, which is this, but the height is supposed to be in meters, and what we have is in centimeters, so we'll divide our height by 100. Okay, so let's say divided by height. Okay, so just in case you can't see here, your formula pi is already available for you. Divided by height divided by 100. Okay, you are squaring this, and you are squaring your covering everything in bracket, just for clarity's sake. Otherwise, return back AC2 to me. Okay, so we are saying if the value in AC2, which is our BMI, if it turns out to be 0, please divide the weight by the quotient of the height and 100, square that quotient, and then use that to replace 0. Otherwise, give me back AC2. Okay, so maybe we want to try our formula first, just to be on the safe side. Let's try our formula. Okay, let's try it and see if it will give us exactly what we have there. So let's say equal to formula. Yeah, so we still have the same 27 and all that, so it means we're on point. Okay, so let's have this. Now this has gone on, so everywhere we had 0. So permit me to move this guy a bit. I want to add filters. Alright, so well, it has its downsides now. That's its downsides. This is height, this is weight, this is BMI. So everywhere BMI was 0, at least not for every time, for most of them, because there's some that will still be 0. Okay, but every time BMI is 0 and you have a height and a weight value, you would have calculated what the BMI should be. All right, that's another way of replacing blanks. Okay, that's another way we can replace blanks. So it's if there is a way to calculate the blanks, just like how we've not mentioned for the student IDC column, because it's just a progression from 1 to 100,000, right? That's just a progression. So you don't have to struggle so much about looking for the missing value. Just put back the progression from 1 to 100,000. You're good, right? So there are different ways we deal with different problems in data cleaning, right? In blanks and all that. So you can see wherever you have your height as 0, you have a divisible by 0 error, a divisor error. When you have your weight and your height is missing, you'd have 0. When you have both of them zeros, you'd have a divisible by error. 0. Pardon me. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to write a function. We're going to write a function that if it finds an error, let it return back a 0 to us. If it finds an error in calculating this, let it return, do you understand? Let it return 0 rather than an error. Okay, now this is this is our if function. Let me do it somewhere else so we're good. So if I say if error, okay, so if I say if this is an error, whatever we have there was an error, return back 0 to me. Otherwise, just return what is there. That's the if error function. Okay, so let's go down again to look for where we had a divisor error. Okay, so yeah, so you had a divisor error here, but we have given it a command to give us this instead. Okay, so I don't want to have too many columns, so I want to incorporate that here. All right, so I want to say if this gives me an error, okay, return back what's there. There are several ways I could also do this, but let me just follow the pattern I've laid. Right, the way the pattern I've laid, let me just not bumping with so many new things. Okay, so it's telling me that something has changed in my formulas. They're no longer consistent. Ignore error. Okay, so let's check for where we have our height equal to 0 and see what we have now. So we don't have that problem anymore. Okay, so we can let go of those guys. So in a way, we've dealt with BMIs. Now, the reason why we're having that error of inconsistent value that time was because we only applied that formula for certain of them that had that problem. So it was not consistent all through. That's why we had that, error there for when it was 0. So I can, go back up. I can copy this and then paste here as values. So this is another way to paste. Right click, then select as values, and we could clear content here. Okay. So we've reduced the amount of zeros we had for our BMI simply by doing this. So the only place you now have a 0 for BMI is where either of these two, one of these two was definitely 0. All right. How about for height? Please do well to like, subscribe, share, and click on the notification bell. So we may not have all those designs ready yet, but yeah, you can do that for us. Okay, so what do we do about our height and our weight? So let's superimpose this formula, right? So if BMI is equal to weight divided by height squared, then we can say that weight should be equal to BMI times height squared. So we want to calculate for weight this time around. So we want to say if error, right? If error return 0 for us, right? So what is it going to check for? We are saying if our weight now is this, if this is equal to 0, please perform this calculation that you would do BMI times, remember height is divided by 100, right? And we want to raise that to the power of 2. Our brackets complete. Yeah, so we are saying BMI times height raised to the power of 2. Okay, we're not done yet. Otherwise, return back for us what is in weight. I think now we're good. Okay, so just to be on the safe side, let us copy our formula and see if it is correct. Okay, works perfectly, so we don't have a problem with that. So yeah, this was what I mentioned. So because it's disjointed from here, I can't use the fill handle, but if I move this here and then I do this, it works perfectly. So if I select my weight when my weight is 0, all the times my weight was 0, I would have found that now I have a value for most of them. Okay, so let's return everything back, clear filter from weight. Let us highlight everything and let us paste as values. Okay, very cool. Let us clear contents. How about if we want to calculate for height? Okay, if we want to calculate for height, we are doing, first of all, it's going to be weight divided by BMI, okay, because this is coming to the other side, and then we would have to do a square root of every other thing on this side. Now, so what we would have here would be height divided by 100, okay, to be height divided by 100, because height is divided by 100, and this we will do times 100. So this is what we are aiming to achieve to calculate for our height. Okay, so we are saying that height, want to say if error first. If it gives us an error, return 0, and the expression that we are telling it is it should check if the value in height is equal to 0, that if it is equal to 0, it should perform square root of weight divided by BMI. You have to be careful here. Weight divided by BMI, right? And we want it to do whatever result it gets from the square root. We are going to now multiply it by, we're going to multiply it by 100. Okay, if this turns out to not be true, please return back what was in height. Okay, close bracket, and we should be fine. Oops, let's see where we missed it. Okay, so this is value if error, so something is wrong. This is where our value if error should be. Okay, so this is our problem here. Yeah, so ends with a black bracket, starts with a black, so you see the red one ends here. That's one of the ways you can easily know if your parentheses are complete and all that. Okay, so as usual, let us test if our formula is accurate. Let's say equal to that, and it's fine. So let's do that. Alright, so if we've calculated that, I could just gently move that here and copy as values only. And then let's clear this too. Okay, great work guys, great work, we've done so well. Now let's see, whoa, we don't have a blank in height. Wow. But we have blanks in weight. So let's see when we have 0 in weight. Alright, so I was expecting to see 0. Huh? So it didn't have made sense. So no 0, not all items showing. Let us refresh that. So that's why it's not showing us. Well, be rest assured that you have zeros. So in case we apply a number filter and say equals to 0, now you can see that they are 0. 22 of them, 22 rows have zeros. Alright guys, so far so good. We're almost done. So let's clear filters from height. Let's also check for weight. How many zeros do we have? We have about 18 of them zeros. You can see that here, 18 out of 10,000 records found. So 2018, and let's see for BMI. Let's see for BMI, we have about 20 of them as well. Zeros. Okay, sorry. All right. So, what do we do now? At this junction, I can now replace wherever I have 0 with my average, because I have done a more accurate calculation to fill those blanks with their calculated value. So I can now say equal to average if of this, okay, average if of that where the values are not equal to 0. Okay, I have this, I can do for these two. Okay, and now I want to say equal to, if this guy is equal to 0, replace it with what's in this cell, but remember we have to use absolute referencing, otherwise retain back what is in my height. Okay, so give me 1 6, give me whatever is in this cell, otherwise if it's 0, replace it with the average. Okay, so I can move this to replace, sorry, pardon me. I can move this to replace this. Right. Peradventure you copy a value and paste here, you perform this kind of operation, and it gives this value, your average here changes, you should know that something has gone wrong. So with height now calculated, right, with height, average height now given, it's possible to now get certain of these values that are missing. You understand? You get, right? So I can say, so I can say equal to, if this is equal to 0, okay, let me do this and then I'll confirm if that is wrong. If this is equal to 0, the value that should be given to it is how we calculated that before. Okay, that's going to be a long route, I don't want to go through that again, but you know what to do. If weight is 0, just like how we calculated the last time, that weight is equal to BMI divided by height squared. Okay, do the same thing again. Okay, BMI divided by height squared. So do the same thing again. All right, so you can now use that to finish up for your height, for your weight, and for your BMI. You would see have some zeros, and do the same thing for BMI. So I'm bringing everything back. Give my system a second. BMI, select 0. So now you can calculate some of the values in BMI. So let's just do the one for BMI. Okay, let's just do the one for BMI, and you can complete the rest. Right. So equal to, want to say if this is equal to 0, that what we should do is we should do weight divided by height over 100, height over 100 all squared, otherwise return back what was in BMI, right? Close bracket. And then we are saying if it gives us an error, that's not a problem, just return 0. Okay, so there's something I wanted to check, right? We are referencing row 2480. If we come down, it changes to row 2488. Okay, to 4488, not from 2480 to 2481. Okay, so if we apply this to the rest of them, it calculates accordingly. So with these values, we can replace, now we can't do that because of the filters. Okay, but you know what to do on this formula. So make sure your filters are all selected and then use the formula. All right, so we've done a whole lot of job on this data set. The moment you're done with this, I'm leaving us to finish up the rest. Okay, because it's not just about watching the tutorial, you also have to put into practice what you're doing. Now the moment you're done with the rest, you can copy and paste, and feel free to share your results. You can, create a link for it and then share with us, and we can see what you've done. All right, So thank you for joining me. Hope you've liked, hope you subscribed, and I hope to see you another time. Yeah, stay safe.